Live from WRAL News Headquarters in Raleigh, your #1 source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
A new potential tropical cyclone is forming over Cuba, and North Carolina is in the forecast fan. I'll show you when we could see some impacts.
A man and a woman were rushed to the hospital after a shooting at a Raleigh apartment complex. What we know about the relationship between the people shot and the accused shooter.
Plus, after 1 week of Olympic events, the U.S. holds the lead in the medal count with more chances to add to that number today. We'll tell you where the U.S. stands.
Dangerous heat in our forecast for this afternoon, and we have new information about a developing system in the tropics. Good afternoon to you. I'm Jeff Hogan.
And I'm Renee Chu. Thanks for joining us. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner is in the WRAL Severe Weather Center with a look at the path of this potential tropical cyclone. And we're paying attention, Elizabeth, because this could impact North Carolina.
It could. We've been talking about this for the last several days. We've been watching the computer models. They're coming into better agreement on where this is headed. And so at 11 o'clock, the National Hurricane Center issued a potential tropical cyclone advisory, started issuing the advisories. This is going to be number 4 of the season. It's potential because it doesn't have all of the elements of a tropical cyclone yet. It needs a closed circulation, and that's what the Hurricane Center is waiting on. But what they do in these situations where it looks like it could affect land, especially in the United States, they go ahead and give it that potential name so that people can go ahead and prepare, and they can go ahead and issue some advisories for that. So it looks like it'll be just off the coast of Tampa by 8 a.m. on Sunday morning with 50-mile-per-hour winds. It crosses Florida and moves back into the Atlantic. And by 8 a.m. on Tuesday, it's sitting near Charleston at 45-mile-per-hour winds, and then sitting very near Wilmington at 8 a.m. on Wednesday with 60-mile-per-hour winds. Again, 74-mile-per-hour winds would make it a hurricane. So here's what we know. As early as Monday morning on the coast, we could start to see some tropical storm force winds. The tropical storm itself would be near Wilmington by Wednesday, as I just showed you, at 60-mile-per-hour winds. Along the coast, flooding, wind damage potentially, and certainly a lot of erosion. Coming up, I'm going to talk more about where the advisories are right now and more of the impacts for our coast. I'll show you how much rain we could see coming up. We have our heat advisory that's in effect now for temperatures up to 110. We take a look at our forecast. Could be up to 111, 112 in the Triangle, 111 in Fayetteville, 107 in Clinton. We're going to talk more about how that's going to feel and our potential for strong thunderstorms into this weekend coming up.
Elizabeth, thanks. Raleigh police are searching for a motive behind a shooting that sent 2 people to the hospital. It happened at an apartment complex on Briarmont Court. This is police radio traffic from the scene.
We get EMS around. We got 1 male, unconscious, ineffective breathing. He's got 1 GSW to his left abdomen. We got another female saying she's shot, no injuries.
WRAL's Sean Gallagher is at the scene and just spoke with witnesses at a nearby school. Sean.
Yeah, Renee, so right here behind me is where they're investigating. It looks like a lot of townhomes that are here in the Walnut Creek neighborhood. But like you said, let me show you just how close this is to a Montessori school. Just a tree line separating where this shooting was and where this school was, where there were at least a dozen kids there earlier this morning. Now, the shooting appears to have happened in this complex we're talking about, where police are right now still investigating. They say they do have a suspect in custody and that there's no threat to the public at the moment. But Raleigh police tell us the shooting happened just before 10 a.m. here at Briarmont Court. They say a man and woman were shot and taken to the hospital with serious injuries. They took 1 person into custody and believe there is a relationship between these 3 people. And while there's no threat to the public, there is that Montessori school directly next to this development. And the owner there tells me they did not receive a call from the police about this shooting, taking it on themselves to put the kids in lockdown.
It's extremely concerning. It's because it's right behind the school. It's literally right behind the school, and we were going to go outside. So I think as a licensed child care provider, it would have been nice to be notified.
So I did reach out to RPD for comment on this. They tell me if they are in a position to comment or to contact a school that's within the vicinity of a crime scene, they will do so. But those decisions are handled by the officers who are on scene. They did add that they eventually did make contact with the school to let them know the latest information. Sean Gallagher, WRAL News, Raleigh.
Now at noon, the Franklin County Animal Shelter is under investigation. A spokesperson with the state's Agriculture Department confirmed that the investigation has been ongoing for about a month. They could not elaborate on the nature of the investigation. Animal rights activists have been vocal about the need for changes at the shelter, including leadership and euthanasia practices. Just yesterday, the county announced a new outreach coordinator for the shelter and more funding for spay-neuter programs. The county says it is fully cooperating with the investigation.
And happening right now in the WRAL Live Center, I-40 westbound at Aviation Parkway was shut down because of a crash. This is a live look at the scene right now. You can see this white car right on the shoulder here. There's actually a tow truck that just put the hook in the car. They are getting ready to tow that car away. But you can see the road has since reopened. The scene cleared just before we came on the air. I want to show you video from Sky 5 earlier. This crash happened about 10:30 this morning. It was at exit 285. That's near Aviation Parkway. First responders were there, but again, that scene has cleared in the past 15 minutes.
This morning's job report did not meet analysts' predictions. It has some economists wondering about a possible recession ahead. WRAL's Ken Smith is here with what came out of a Keenan Institute forum this morning on the state of the economy. Ken.
Well, Jeff, let's just say the stock market did not like this morning's less than impressive report. We'll get to the numbers in just a minute. But the big picture, it could actually help the state of the economy. A top economist with the UNC's Keenan Institute says today's jobs report almost guarantees the Federal Reserve is going to ease interest rates in September. Greg Brown says the Fed is relatively confident the inflation rate will stay at around 2.5%. Of course, you know, their target was 2%. Well, after this week's Fed meeting, keeping interest rates steady, Fed Chair Jerome Powell signaled the Fed could lower interest rates at its September meeting. No word yet on by how much. Brown says, though, the bottom line, a softening economy is a plus for consumers.
Lower interest rates are definitely going to benefit people who are borrowers, right? And so those could be consumers with individual loans, credit card debt, car loans, and especially mortgage rates. We know that mortgage rates have gone up a lot, and that's in some sense priced people out of the housing market.
Well, Brown says another benefit of a softening economy is lower inflation, we just mentioned, which could lead to more affordable housing, lower rents, more manageable purchasing prices for those homes. Well, Brown and other economists are expecting quite a bit of data over the next few weeks or so, which will give them a better handle on what to expect in the second half of this year. You can listen and watch the entire Keenan Institute forum on our website, WRAL.com.
And Ken, you said the stock market didn't like it. You are not wrong. Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 770 points right now at noon. That's after big losses yesterday as well. S&P 500 is down over 100 points. NASDAQ down big as well, down 366 right now.
Oh, that hurts to watch. 3 Americans freed from Russian prisons are now back in the U.S., greeted with hugs, tears, and overwhelming joy after their plane landed in Maryland late Thursday. Former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan, Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, and Russian-American journalist Alsu Karmashava were part of a massive prisoner exchange involving more than 24 people in 7 countries. Their return marks the conclusion of what President Biden called a feat of diplomacy. White House National Security Coordinator John Kirby fired back at comments from J.D. Vance, who said he believes Putin agreed to the swap ahead of a possible Trump administration.
There's absolutely zero evidence at all that this deal was brought about because of some potential fear of who might be the next president. This deal was brought about because President Biden had alliances and partnerships and trust he could build on.
To lose touch with reality.
Another one of the released prisoners is Vladimir Kara-Murza, who has an American green card. He traveled to Germany to meet his family there. The prisoner swap comes at a time of high tension between the U.S. and Russia over the war in Ukraine.
Time for track and field events now. They are underway in Paris, and 3 Americans will take part in the 100-meter women's semifinal tomorrow. All 3 advanced. Sha'Carri Richardson among them. She motored ahead of the pack in her first ever Olympic race. She does face some stiff competition, though. To the field, Raleigh native and Wakefield High graduate Veronica Fraley competes in the discus. She will throw this afternoon at 2:20. We talked to Veronica before she left for Paris. She says when she competed in the World Championships last year, she was just happy to be there. But for her first Olympics, she wants to stand on that podium. Right now, the men's and women's preliminary swimming events are underway. And at 12:35, Team USA men's 3-on-3 basketball face off against host country France. You can catch all the replays on Prime Time in Paris starting at 8 o'clock tonight.
Let's take a look at the medal count right now. Team USA at the top with 41 medals. That's 3 more than this morning. The host country is second with 30, and then China is third with 27 medals.
Next at noon, fuel tanks dropping from the sky. Where 2 of those fuel tanks were dropped from an F-16 fighter jet and the damage that was caused.
Also, a massive landslide in Canada is causing flooding concerns. The culturally significant areas that could be damaged by water.
Plus, historically black sororities and fraternities are backing Kamala Harris. At 12:30, how they say their political strength could help make history.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.
Humiliated, embarrassed, and ashamed. That's how a California nurse says she felt after being forced off a flight because of a medical condition. She has something known as neurofibromatosis, commonly known as NF. The genetic disorder causes non-cancerous tumors to grow in the nervous system and on skin. She flew to LA for surgery to reduce tumors on her body. On her return flight, a crew member questioned her medical condition, then removed her from the flight.
I don't think I'll ever fly them again. I think this could have been handled much more professionally. They should have waited until they had all of the information before making a decision that ultimately impacted my day, my flight, my traveling, and my overall perspective on Southwest.
She obtained a letter from her surgeon clearing her to fly, so Southwest rebooked her on a new flight. The airline released a statement saying we are looking into it and plan to follow up with both the employees and customer involved to learn more.
A Texas adoption attorney is charged with pressuring inmates to illegally sell their unborn babies. A sheriff's office intelligence officer intercepted text messages between the 68-year-old founder of Adoptions International Incorporated and at least 2 inmates. In one instance, an inmate received more than $800, but when she decided to keep her child, authorities say the attorney verbally attacked her. Another exchange shows the deal she brokered with another inmate, and she also decided to keep her child. This is an incredible story out of Michigan. An F-16 fighter jet from the Ohio National Guard declared an emergency earlier this week and dumped 2 fuel tanks in 2 different locations. Fortunately, no one was hurt. But one of the huge tanks exploded upon impact in a shopping plaza parking lot, damaging the pavement and some nearby cars. A second fuel tank landed in Lake Huron. The tank that went into the lake was empty. The other tank still had fuel inside it.
An Oklahoma couple is sharing their near-death experience during a scuba trip. The experienced scuba divers spent nearly 2 days lost at sea. Amid the chaos of different diving groups going up and down the dive line, they got separated from their group. The hours dragged on. They saw rescue planes in the distance, but too far away to be found. Dehydration and exhaustion started setting in. About an hour before their air ran out, the Coast Guard found them.
They were like, we're going to pick you up and get you in the boat. And I'm like...
And we had no strength. I mean,
you see this, right? Like, I'm like, I don't know if that's going to happen. They're like, we got you. And they reached out
we're not kidding.
And literally plucked us from death. I just start crying and I'm trying to hug the boat captain. I'm behind him. And I'm putting my arms all over him. He's like, let me drive, sir. Let me drive, sir.
The couple is encouraging everyone to celebrate Coast Guard members on National Coast Guard Day this Sunday.
A massive landslide in British Columbia is causing fears of flash flooding. This landslide formed a dam, but emergency officials say there's already some water seeping through, and some local leaders are worried that potential flooding could end up destroying culturally significant areas like burial grounds and village sites of indigenous people in that area. What a mess with a lot of that water there. We have had our share of rain. Now we're having our share of heat and some disturbances in the tropics.
Yeah, we have yet to have a tropical system affect North Carolina this season, and this could be the one. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner is watching this very closely.
It's certainly the closest that we've come so far. There's still some time as this system develops into an actual tropical storm, and at that point, the models will be able to have a better idea of exactly where it's going. But because it looks like it could begin to affect Florida over the weekend, the Hurricane Center went ahead and is calling it a potential tropical cyclone. That way, they can go ahead and issue watches, warnings, advisories. In case you're just joining us, we're going to touch on this right now, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about the heat. We'll get into a lot more detail about the system in just a little while. It's 420 miles southeast of Key West here, and of course, we're starting to see it developing over Cuba. It has winds at 30 miles per hour right now, and we're just waiting for it to get a closed circulation, which definitely looks likely. Certainly, by the time we get to Saturday and Sunday, it moves up the west coast of Florida through the Gulf of Mexico. 50-mile-per-hour winds are possible by 8 a.m. on Sunday, and then it crosses back into the Atlantic. And by Tuesday morning at 8 a.m., 45-mile-per-hour winds near Charleston, and then off the coast of Wilmington, 8 a.m. Wednesday at 60 miles per hour, and that takes it out as far as it's going to go for now. Some of the computer models strengthen it a good bit, and it becomes hurricane strength off our coast, but then some of the other models weaken it and bring it inland. So again, I would expect to see some changes in the intensity and the path of this system. Keep checking in regularly with us over the weekend. Of course, we'll get a lot more information from the National Hurricane Center and from our computer models as well. So we'll keep you updated over the next few days as this continues to develop. Here's a live look at North Hills, looking at mostly sunny skies. It is 92 already. We're headed to 98 this afternoon. Our dew point is 75. That is high. I mean, it is just a soupy mess out there right now. It feels like 104 in Durham and Raleigh. That's where we are right now with our heat index. Feels like 102 in Fayetteville. Already feeling like 108 in Southern Pines, 100 in Rocky Mountain, 102 in South Hill. Heat advisory, of course, in effect now until around 8 p.m. Should top out at around 110, but it's possible that we'll have a few sites that are a little higher than that with the heat index this afternoon. 97 for Raleigh, 96 in Durham, 97 in Fayetteville. That's very close to what we saw yesterday, but the heat index is going to be a little higher because our dew point is higher. So again, we're looking at the potential for maybe around 111 in Fayetteville, maybe 112 in Raleigh, 106 in Roxborough. So it's just going to be dangerously hot. But this may be the last day for the next week, at least, that we see dangerous heat. By tomorrow, 103 brings us just down below the threshold for a heat advisory. A little cooler Sunday, and we're looking at feeling like upper 90s for Monday and Tuesday, which is definitely better than 110. Over the weekend, the pattern changes significantly. We have an 80% chance of rain Saturday and a 70% chance on Sunday. Coming up in a little while, we'll talk about how much rain we'll see, but that's going to help to bring our temperatures down. It'll feel a bit cooler. For today, we have a level 1 risk for severe storms. We have a front that's back to our west. We've had some thunderstorms well ahead of it, and in Virginia, a severe thunderstorm warning right now. We'll take a look at futurecast. For us, it's likely to be mid to late afternoon. We'll start to see a few of these cells popping up. One or two of those could produce some wind damage. Might see a few isolated severe thunderstorm warnings for us this afternoon and this evening. We'll have a better chance of that on Saturday and on Sunday too, especially in our eastern counties. And then our attention by Monday will turn to what's happening in the tropics, and we'll talk more about how much rain we could see and when we could see some of the stronger winds and whether or not they'll affect us here inland. Coming up.
Elizabeth, thanks. Pretty soon, people across North Carolina will be able to get rebates for new appliances. Millions of dollars in federal funds will hit our state to get more electric appliances into homes. The next steps toward this goal of energy efficiency ahead on our news at 4.
Then Medicaid will soon cover obesity medication for children in our state. WRAL health reporter Grace Hava explains how that's going to work. That's today at 5 o'clock. Still ahead this noon, parents can check off one more item as their children prepare to return to school. How Walmart is helping children get off to a healthy start.
You could say fast food restaurants are going all in with AI. How new technology could ensure that your drive-through order is right every time. The Justice Department wants to pay workers to report any crime happening in corporate America. The agency says it will pay whistleblowers who report financial and corporate misconduct. But the tip has to lead to a successful prosecution. The payment will be a portion of whatever assets the company gives up. Under the new program, whistleblowers could receive payments worth millions of dollars. A federal judge has thrown out a nearly $5 billion verdict against the NFL in a lawsuit. It claims it overcharged subscribers to its Sunday Ticket package. Sunday Ticket is the only broadcast option for fans who want to watch their teams play out-of-market games. Customers alleged prices were inflated to limit subscriptions and protect the fees that networks pay to air games locally.
Tomorrow, 4,600 Walmart pharmacies across the country will offer free health checks. It's all part of Walmart Wellness Days. Some select stores will also have vision screenings. Parents can also chat with pharmacists on healthy lifestyle choices. Customers can get affordable immunizations, including tetanus, hepatitis, and flu shots. This is the 10th year the big box retailer has hosted Wellness Days. Google is expanding a parental control feature on mobile devices kids use. School time, it's called. It allows parents to set limits during school hours. But it also allows approved people like parents to get through to them in case of emergency. Google's School Time will be available on Android phones, tablets, and Samsung Galaxy watches. The feature was introduced on select smartwatches in May.
One international airline says it will stop serving a beloved snack over safety concerns. Korean Air will stop providing instant ramen on some flights due to potential burn risks during turbulence. Last month, the number of turbulence incidents doubled from the same time period in 2019. The airline will provide other snacks for passengers in the form of a self-service snack bar. A popular baby store is making a comeback with the help of a retail chain department store. Babies R Us will be rolling out new shops at 200 Kohl's stores across the country. Customers will be able to find a variety of products on the Kohl's website. The shops should be available by the end of September.
There's been a lot of talk about the Divine Nine since Vice President Kamala Harris launched her 2024 presidential bid. But who are they and how might they impact this year's election? The answer when we return.
Plus, 3 Americans unjustly held by Russia are now home with their loved ones. But the psychological bondage may persist. The signs one expert says family and friends should look for. But first, here's a look at the winning lottery numbers.
Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
Republican lawmakers are urging former President Donald Trump to stick to the issues. This comes after he attacked Kamala Harris's racial identity during the NABJ conference in Chicago. NBC's Garrett Hake shares reaction from Washington.
This morning, Donald Trump's false claims about Kamala Harris's racial identity casting a cloud over his campaign as fellow Republicans urge him to change the subject.
She's always embraced her heritage proudly, as she should. My problem with Vice President Harris is the policy choices she's made.
Look, this election should not be about race. It should not be about gender. It should be about the issues.
The controversy over Harris's heritage stemming from these remarks about the vice president, the daughter of Jamaican and Indian immigrants, by Trump in a panel interview at a black journalism conference Wednesday.
She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I respect either one.
The former president then pressing his false claim in this social media post Thursday, writing, "Thank you, Kamala, for the nice picture you sent from many years ago," and noting her Indian heritage. While Harris has largely brushed off the remark, Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, looked to explain it in less divisive language on a visit to the southern border.
Trump's point is that she is a chameleon.
Trump also responding on Thursday to a new Democratic attack line, calling the Republican ticket weird.
He and his running mate sure seem to have a lot to say about me. And by the way, don't you find some of their stuff to just be plain weird?
Trump speaking out in a radio interview.
Well, they're the weird ones. Nobody's ever called me weird. I'm a lot of things, but weird I'm not.
That was Garrett Haake. You probably heard a lot about the Divine Nine during this election cycle and Vice President Kamala Harris's membership in the first black sorority in the nation. 9 historically black fraternities and sororities formed more than a century ago when black people could not join white organizations. Harris joined Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated in 1986 at Howard University, making her one of the 2.5 million members of the Divine Nine. Members have been a force in movements from civil rights to voting rights, and now these organizations say their political strength could help make history.
We are credible messengers. We have been in the communities. We have been working with these subpopulations, and they trust us.
Members of the Divine Nine say the message is not only limited to the black community. Most say they will also reach out to their white male counterparts to educate them on Harris's qualifications.
It's the largest prisoner exchange between the U.S. and Russia since the Cold War. But as 3 Americans are celebrating their freedom, experts say this experience will likely have an impact on their lives forever. Mandy Gaither explains the mental health hurdles those released may now face.
A historic prisoner swap, but after prolonged detainment, those released from Russia may have a long road ahead when it comes to mental and emotional well-being.
I think anytime somebody goes through a major life disruption, like being detained and imprisoned, there's going to be a readjustment period.
At Ohio State's Wexner Medical Center, Ariana Gallagher works with patients who have gone through trauma. She says people process it differently and not everyone will have a hard time afterwards. But she says for anyone who's gone through stress or trauma, it's important to be aware of post-traumatic stress disorder signs, including sleep disturbances, intrusive thoughts, flashbacks, nightmares, being easily startled, increased irritability, anxiety, and avoidance of people, places, or things that act as triggers.
It's natural to want to avoid having that experience. So for a lot of people, their world starts to become a little narrow because of those avoidance behaviors.
With the right support, Gallagher says those struggling after a trauma can find relief, many times through therapy.
I think the take-home message is that there's hope. You don't have to continue to suffer.
That was Mandy Gaither reporting. As with anyone who's gone through a traumatic experience, having a support system is critical. Family and friends can help by creating an open dialogue with a person who is struggling by letting them know it's okay for them to be having a hard time.
It was an exciting morning for family and friends in Wilson. They were up early to watch their family member and Team USA diver Greg Duncan compete at the Olympics. WRAL's Heidi Kirk joined the watch party and shared the special moments as they watched their loved one in Paris.
Friends and family from across Wilson gathered together to cheer on Greg and his partner, Tyler. Take a look at this. As you can see, there's a lot of excitement here in the room, and they came prepared. Look at this spread. Even though Paris is many thousands of miles away, they're bringing it right here to Wilson. And even though there was some stiff competition this morning, they say they're just proud to have watched Greg compete.
It was kind of surreal because, we've been waiting for this moment and we've seen all the pictures through the years and we've seen him in person diving. And then to know he's forever an Olympian.
Now, we've heard Greg is going to be hanging around Paris for a few days and cheering on his other friends at the Paris Olympics. And of course, the excitement here in Wilson will not die down. Heidi Kirk, WRAL News in Wilson.
And we caught up with Duncan after his dives and told him about everyone gathered to cheer him on early this morning. And this is what he had to say to everyone at home in Wilson.
Well, thanks for watching. First and foremost, like I kind of just said, I wouldn't be here without them. So, if you could tune in from anywhere, I appreciate it and I love you guys. It's amazing.
And there's been a change in the medal count in the last 30 minutes. The U.S. still leads with 41, but France added another gold and is in second place now with 31 total medals. China is third with 27. We all know sitting for hours all day is not good for your body. How you can counter the effects by doing one thing every day.
And when you're ready for bow time, it may also be time for AI. How Bojangles plans to use artificial intelligence at the drive-thru. Make sure you have the latest version of the WRAL News app. Keep up with breaking news, weather alerts, or open WRAL News Plus at the top of your screen, and you can watch our streaming channel for the latest from WRAL News.
Tonight, Raleigh band Harvey Street is performing in Wrightsville Beach after someone stole all their equipment. They're out about $30,000. Band members said security footage from the hotel where they were staying in Denver showed that someone unhitching the trailer there and then driving away with it. They say some of the stolen instruments were from their childhood. For now, they will make do with borrowed or slightly broken equipment.
We still have our fingers and our musical skills, so the money can be made back eventually, but those instruments can never come back, and that's the real sad part of all of this, I think.
A GoFundMe has already raised more than $20,000 for the band to help them purchase new equipment. They hope to use that new gear when they perform at the Lincoln Theater in downtown Raleigh, September 12th.
Today, school leaders from across the state are wrapping up their School Safety Summit. It's the final day of the 2024 RISE Back to School Safety Summit in Wilmington. It includes sessions on combating bullying, opioid and substance abuse, and suicide, as well as responding to critical incidents and helping children through trauma. It's the signature event of the year for the Department of Public Instruction's Center for Safer Schools. If you have a sedentary lifestyle, you could reverse the negative effects on your health with one simple change. A sedentary lifestyle is described as sitting for 8 or more hours a day. Researchers say all you need is 20 minutes of exercise a day, and that includes anything from walking fast, playing tennis, or maybe hop on a bike.
Everyone needs a role model, and a new Olympic-inspired book for children shares the timeless story of dreams and determination. Why the author chose to release the story now.
A second statue honoring the late, great Kobe Bryant will be unveiled today, but you'll have to wait to see it.
.43 in the afternoon right now as you look live at Pinehurst Resort and Country Club. Those big puffy clouds up there, blue sky, and some folks out there bearing the 90-degree heat, 90 plus. As you watch WRAL News, available on Spectrum and the WRAL app on your TV or streaming device.
Don't you hate it when you get lunch at the drive-thru and then you open the bag and it's the wrong order? Eben Brown explains how America's fast food chains are turning to a high-tech solution so you get the order right.
Have you ever gone to the drive-thru only to drive away with your order incorrect? There could be an AI solution to that problem, and it is coming sooner than you think. Fast food restaurant chain Bojangles is partnering with the tech company Hi Auto to roll out a new AI-based ordering system in all of its drive-thru locations, following a test run of 50 stores that showed the artificial intelligence got the order correct more than 95% of the time.
It's a production line. If there is a mistake, the whole production line breaks. And so the key for the success of this technology is accuracy.
The system isn't purely run on AI. It also relies on human input to help it learn and become more accurate. And so far, it's getting high marks from employees who call it Bolinda and say it makes them feel less pressure when dealing with customers.
You reduce pressure and they are happy and they are staying so that your service is consistent.
Other restaurants are experimenting with AI with mixed results, including McDonald's, which canceled its own test run last month. But with voice recognition and chat interfaces becoming more sophisticated, experts say it is only a matter of time before tech like this is rolled out industry-wide.
You can create a guest experience that is really great and improving over time and differentiates one brand from another.
That was Eben Brown reporting. The Commerce Department says the use of AI in restaurants is expected to increase by 85% over the next year.
The Olympics is stirring up creativity among writers. An author in Wisconsin penned the book, The Quickest Kid in Clarksville. It's the story of a little girl in 1960s Clarksville, Tennessee, who dreams of being the fastest girl in the world, just like her hero, sprinter Wilma Rudolph. Rudolph made history as the first woman from the United States to win 3 gold medals at the Olympics. And the author says the message is timeless for today's aspiring athletes.
You see a lot of times, like on social media, even now people are watching like Simone Biles, and there's little tiny girls watching her on TV trying to do the flips that she's doing. And so I just think, the Olympics is a great time for kids to think, well, maybe I could do that.
It is a popular topic. This is just one of dozens of Olympic-themed books for children.
The second of 3 statues honoring late Lakers great Kobe Bryant outside Crypto.com Arena will be unveiled today in a private ceremony. The statue will pay tribute to Bryant and his daughter Gianna. The two were among the 9 people who died in a helicopter crash on January 26, 2020. The first statue, unveiled in February of this year, initially had misspellings. Both typos have since been corrected. The third planned statue will be unveiled at a later date, and it will show Bryant in his number 24 jersey. Just many ways to honor the great Kobe Bryant.
No doubt. There's a potential tropical cyclone brewing in the tropics right now. Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. This may affect us next week.
Looking at the potential for it to have some impact on the coast of North Carolina as early as Monday. So this is developing, and then we'll move pretty quickly up through the Gulf of Mexico past Florida. And I'll show you where there are already some watches and warnings for Florida. It's moving northwest at 16 miles per hour, 30 mile per hour winds. It's 420 miles southeast of Key West, developing here over parts of Cuba right now. Here's a look at its path. By Sunday morning at 8 a.m., 50 mile per hour winds. So it'll be a tropical storm by that point. Likely to be a tropical depression here by tomorrow morning, and then a tropical storm by Sunday morning, 50 mile per hour winds. And then it moves back out over the Atlantic, and potentially the center of circulation may hug the coast, arriving in Charleston around 8 a.m. on Tuesday with 45 mile per hour winds. And then it'll be interacting with some very warm water here, the Gulf Stream, which could help it to intensify to 60 mile per hour winds by early on Wednesday morning. Now, the earliest we might start to see some tropical storm force winds, though, is on Monday morning. So it's going to be moving along fairly quickly. The blue shaded area here in southwest Florida is where we have a tropical storm warning already in effect, down along the Keys, and then across, say, Tampa down a little farther south. There's a tropical storm watch, most likely the next day or so, that will get upgraded. Let's take a look at Futurecast, and you can see that system developing, dumping a lot of heavy rain along its path, too. You can see there Tampa, that's Sunday at around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. By Monday at lunchtime, we're seeing a pretty wide swath of rain, and then we start to see the storm really becoming more symmetrical, and that's an indication of its strengthening. It is possible, according to this version of Futurecast, that it could become a hurricane as we get into the day on Wednesday. And one of the big questions will be, what are the steering currents like? Will they be weak and the storm sort of wanders slowly up the coast, or will those steering currents be a little quicker and move it on out? This is a look at Wednesday at 8 a.m. You can see the center of the storm getting closer to the Outer Banks at that point, and then during the evening it begins to move off. Now, we're going to see a lot of changes in the intensity and the timing of the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center and from the computer models as well. So I encourage you to check in frequently with us this evening and through the weekend, certainly early next week, to see what's changed. This is a look at our potential rainfall. This is going to be up to 8 to 10 inches across parts of Florida. And you can see here 4 to 5 inches along the coast of North Carolina through about Tuesday or Wednesday. And in our viewing area, as much as 2 to 2.5 inches. Some of that is going to be from some rain that we see over the weekend. We could see tropical impacts on our coast by Monday morning if you're planning to head to the beach. Again, make sure you're checking very carefully. Right now, it looks like Saturday and Sunday are probably going to be okay. But again, just keep checking. So timing, as early as Monday morning with some wind along the coast. It could be a tropical storm near Wilmington by Wednesday morning, and then flooding and wind damage are most likely along the coast. But it is possible that we see that path change, potentially farther inland. So we'll keep watching. North Hills looking at partly cloudy right now. We have a cold front that's swinging through back to our west. That front moves in and will stall over our area as we get through the day tomorrow. Some scattered storms will develop here between 3 and 5 o'clock and then continue overnight and into early Saturday. And then we may see a line of storms that develops on Saturday, mid to late afternoon. That's going to bring us the best chance of severe storms. We may see some of that rain continuing into the evening. So we have a level 1 risk for today, but those stronger storms are more likely on Saturday, with that chance of damaging winds with that line of storms coming through. And Saturday, we do have a medium risk for flooding. Again, we could end up seeing as much as 1.5 to 2.5 inches through Sunday in our viewing area. Along with the rain that we'll see this weekend, temperatures begin to drop. 91 for tomorrow, 85 on Sunday. And with that system sitting offshore, potentially next week, we could see highs in the 80s.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Our pets of the day are bringing the funny, the history behind this bonded pair, right after the break. As we wrap things up, here's a look at a few of the headlines we're following for you today.
Raleigh police are searching for a motive behind a shooting that sent 2 people to the hospital. It happened at a townhouse complex on Briarmont Court about 10 a.m. Police have someone in custody. They say there is no threat to the public. The Montessori school near the scene went on temporary lockdown during the investigation.
The Franklin County Animal Shelter is under investigation. A spokesperson with the state's Agriculture Department confirmed the investigation has been going on for about a month. They could not elaborate on why animal rights activists have been vocal about the need for changes at that shelter, including leadership and euthanasia practices. The county says they are fully cooperating with the investigation.
A top economist with UNC's Kenan Institute sees good news in today's jobs report. Greg Brown says this increases the likelihood that the Fed will ease interest rates in September. He says a softening economy is a plus for consumers as it creates a chain reaction that could drop housing prices and other costs. Today marks 50 years of the North Carolina Zoo. The zoo first opened in Asheboro on August 2nd, 1974. It is the world's largest natural habitat zoo. These are some pictures from back when it opened of zookeepers, guests, and a pair of Galapagos tortoises. One of those tortoises is still going strong. The female now lives at the Riverbanks Zoo in South Carolina.
Can't have them as pets, but you can have these. Our pets of the day are a bonded pair of senior sisters, and judging by their names, someone really enjoyed dancing. Tango and salsa right here. They have been together their entire lives. They've been described as both sweet and curmudgeonly old ladies. The unfortunate loss of their former owner resulted in them being taken to the SPCA of Wake County. After 6 months at the shelter, the SPCA is hoping to find the special person who will make their home a retirement home for these sisters. For more information about tango and salsa, you can visit spcawake.org.
You'll soon be able to save big bucks when you make upgrades to your home on everything from appliances to windows and doors. Coming up on Fox 50 at 4, we'll tell you when you can start taking advantage of these home energy savings.
Taking control of the heat outside by staying inside, watching a lot of Olympic coverage, which is going on right now on WRAL. It's paid off so far this week. It's been really fun.
Team USA has been on a roll, and it's been so fun to watch.
Leading that medal count. That's all the time we have for you right now on Fox 50. You can tune in to WRAL for that coverage of the Paris Olympic Games right now.
We now give you the blessing to switch over to WRAL to watch the Olympics. Have a great day, everybody.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.